Morning, everybody. I hope everybody's well on this chilly morning. Just a reminder that the Plumbing Indaba will be held on the 27th to 30th of July. So we hope to see you all there. I think it's going to be a really worthwhile event. Lots of fun activities and a lot of serious conversations that will be taking place with industry leaders from other parts of the world as well as throughout South Africa. So if you're interested and you want to get more information, please contact marketing@iopsa.org or just give our offices a call. Thanks. So on to today's topic. If my slides will, now my slides are not moving. Sorry guys, don't know what's going on here. There we go. Right. So we once again just having a look at the latest research that we've done. We finished this in May, and the report came out early in June. So first, before we get into this latest round of research, I just want to run very quickly through the previous research going back to 2006. I know some of you have probably seen this before, but it's good just to remind ourselves of what previous research has pointed out to us. So back in 2006, the Water Research Commission did a piece of research there. And for the purposes of today, I'm just going to touch the real highlights. But nearly 60% of plumbing components or plumbing products that they surveyed were found to be non-compliant. Then in 2008, Mr. Lobanga did some research on behalf of the University of Johannesburg. And he found that plus minus 50% of all plumbing components that they, in their study, were non-compliant, and that 52% of plumbers said that they admitted to installing non-compliant materials, and then obviously that there was poor enforcement of legislation. At this point, I'll just mention that all this research is available. A lot of it is available to download for free off our website. If you're struggling to find it, then please contact us and we will share it with you. So it is publicly available. It's not like, and it's free. It's not that you have to pay for it or anything. Also in 2008, the Water Research Commission did another piece of research where they found that 58% of plumbing components sold. So this one, they particularly looked at the plumbing retailers. And they found that about 58% of the plumbing components sold were non-compliant. Similar piece of research in 2009 by Water Research Commission. Then IOPSA's industry survey in 2018. IOPSA members stated that between 25 and 50% of all materials sold, this was in their opinion, was non-compliant. And then between 50 and 75% of all plumbing work being done is undertaken by unqualified individuals. And the biggest impact on the success of their plumbing business was the unqualified plumbers working in the industry. Rory McNamara has pointed out very correctly to us that we shouldn't be using this term unqualified plumbers because they're not plumbers. Only a qualified plumber is a plumber. So thanks, Rory, for pointing that out. It's a valid point. In 2019, our survey found that unqualified plumbers working in the industry was the biggest impact on the plumbers, again, same as the previous year. In 2019, the GIZ, together with TIPS, did a this is a very extensive piece of research, and it might be boring for some people, but it's really worth a read because this is a very in-depth and a very large piece of research. But the key findings were that there's more informal activity than formal activity in the plumbing industry, and that formal businesses were declining every year, and the number of informal businesses was increasing every year. They also found, obviously, that this gives the informal or the unqualified plumbing businesses a competitive advantage, and that enforcement was really difficult. In 2020, another survey by IOPSA and TIPS. Again, unqualified plumbers and unapproved products had the most significant impact on plumbing businesses. The respondents wanted us to focus on the issue of unqualified plumbers or unqualified individuals in the industry. So, the theme you can see coming through very strongly right throughout all this research is pretty much the same. In 2020, another research that was done with between IOPSA and TIPS, there's been a decline in formal employment, and that unqualified individuals drive down market prices and undermine the prices for plumbing work of a standard quality. So in other words, work to the standards. These are things I'm probably telling you guys that all of us know, but it's important to check the facts and to do some research and see if it confirms what we believe to be true. In 2021, this is a very important piece of research that we did in conjunction with South African Women in Plumbing. And we found that only 28% of plumbers say that their municipality actually keeps a register of plumbers in their area. And only 15% of those respondents said that their municipality actually holds them accountable for the actions that they take. So in other words, 85% of municipalities or 85% of plumbers that responded to the survey have never had their municipality take any action against them if they've done things incorrectly. It was also found that only 80 municipalities, only 31% of municipalities actually have adequate bylaws, water bylaws available. It's quite a scary thing. And then we get to this latest batch of research that we've done. So in this research, what we did was we asked the auditors, the IOPSA auditors, to request permission from homeowners or property owners when they were doing their normal audits to have a look at other aspects of the plumbing. We weren't able to pay the auditors for this work, and I would like to thank all the auditors that did participate. Not all auditors did participate, and participation was a little bit mixed. Some auditors really put in a lot of effort, and other auditors struggled a little bit. But nonetheless, I'd like to thank them for their efforts. They weren't paid for this additional work. So they asked the property owners if they could look at other parts of the installations, or the plumbing installations, and to have a look at how they comply. Obviously, when we get to things like pipes chased into walls, drains that are underground, etc., etc., they didn't now go and take scanning equipment and drain cleaning, drain cameras and that sort of thing to go and look. It is literally, this is the result of what they visually could see, on the exterior of the building, what they could physically see. So having a look at water heaters, this was one element that didn't surprise us because we've got quite extensive data on this, but still the number is disconcerting. In that 67% of water heaters out there are not compliant. This was the only number that came in more or less where we thought it would be. The rest of the research came in very differently from what we expected. And it was quite surprising how bad it is. When we move across to wastewater, this obviously is the wastewater from basins, sinks, baths, showers, etc. 65.5% of installations that were surveyed were non-compliant. Sorry, I did forget to say that this survey was on 725 properties. We are continuing the survey, and we will update the numbers at the end of probably around about the end of November. So hopefully by that point we'll have a lot more numbers, and it will be a little bit more meaningful. In terms of drainage, you can see there once again by far the non-compliant installations outweigh the compliant installations. And when we get to rainwater disposal, exactly the same. It's really not a good picture. So if we look at all the research from 2006 to 2022, we're looking at, what's that, 16 years? 16 years of research is telling us and the government and the public the same story over and over and over again. The same story has been repeated time and time again from 2006 until now. And the theme is basically that there is little or no compliance to the law. We've got the laws in place. There are laws that state that only plumbers may undertake certain work. That municipalities must have bylaws in place and that they must manage those bylaws. But certainly for the last 16 years, the research is showing us and is clearly indicating to us that the rule of law is not being followed. Once again, I'm probably talking to an educated audience that already knows what I'm saying. But it's important for us to get this message across to government and to the public, is that there are laws for plumbers in South Africa, and there are laws about how plumbing needs to be undertaken. And simply it is not happening. So whether it is the public choosing to use unqualified individuals because of price, not understanding the complications that they're going to cause, or whether it is because of lack of enforcement or lack of knowledge within the municipalities, something has got to change, because all this is important because it has a massive effect on our country. So firstly, unqualified individuals working on particularly stormwater and drainage installations are causing serious damage to municipal infrastructure. We've done a number of webinars on this, both Tech Talks and Business 101s, where we have demonstrated this and the impacts that it's having on wastewater treatment plants, on bulk sewers, bulk rainwater drainage, manholes, etc., even our roads. It's massive. And we're all lamenting currently as South Africans, we're lamenting the dreadful state of our municipal infrastructure, whether it's roads, whether it's sewers, whether it's water systems. But ultimately, these unqualified people working on these systems are causing more damage than anything. We're also seeing very serious contamination of our freshwater resources. Some of you may have attended the Business 101 I did a little while ago, talking specifically about, talking specifically about the contamination of our freshwater resources, our rivers, our dams, etc., and the impact that the plumbing community has on that contamination. If you look at what is happening in terms of nutrification and eutrophication of our rivers and dams, it is a disaster of massive proportion. And a large percentage of that is being caused by sewage, raw sewage entering into our natural water sources. We're also seeing contamination of potable water. We know, for example, that RPZ valves, the backflow prevention valves, that they almost exclusively sold in the Western Cape. And there's very little or no installations of RPZ valves happening throughout the rest of the country. However, we also know that grey water harvesting, rainwater harvesting, even black water harvesting is happening on a regular basis all over the country. And yet there's no backflow prevention happening, or inadequate backflow prevention being put into place. And that does lead to contamination of the potable water. It does lead to it. It's not a maybe, it does lead to it. We look at South Africa, and we're a water scarce country. The guys down in Gqeberha, in Nelson Mandela Bay, they are acutely aware of what is happening in this. Makanda, Grahamstown went through that very recently. Cape Town a couple of years ago. Beaufort West, areas of the Northwest Province. So many parts of the country have gone through extreme water challenges in the last couple of years. And yet we're still losing 40% of our water, whether it's to leakages or to theft. But we can't afford to lose 40% of our water. We can't afford to keep using non-compliant products and doing installations incorrectly, which do cause leak, which do cause contamination. We even see products now that are sold as brass products that are actually made out of all sorts of funny different types of material that just corrode. And think about it, when one of these angle valves or a gate valve or a ball valve or a mixer, when it corrodes, where is it corroding to? It's corroding into the water that people are drinking, washing their children with, washing their clothes with, watering their vegetables. That's where that corrosion is taking place, and it's leaching all sorts of horrible things like arsenic and lead into the water. It's contributing to the reduction in formal employment. That very large GIZ and TIPS study that I spoke about earlier, they clearly demonstrated that the formal plumbing businesses normally employ people on a formal basis, full-time formal employment, where the informal sector doesn't employ people on a full-time formal basis. They employ people on a casual basis, often using undocumented foreigners and all sorts of, not complying to labor laws, etc., etc., etc. So the reduction in formal employment is what is happening because of all these things. There's an increase in the number of injuries and deaths that are being caused, whether it is by scalding, whether it's by geysers exploding, whether it's by electrocution. There's a number of things that are happening, but we're definitely seeing an increase in the number of injuries and deaths being attributed directly to plumbing works. It also causes damage to property, which I don't think I need to tell you guys much about, but I think you're very aware of the type of damage that water can cause to a property. And then it's also leading to the spread of diseases. So not only things like waterborne diseases, where we've seen a very marked increase in the number of waterborne diseases being found throughout the country, but also in an increase in things like Legionnaire's disease and Pontiac fever and these sort of things. So we know, as plumbers, I hope, we know that plumbers are the ones that bring life into the building and take death out of the building, because raw sewage is highly toxic stuff. That's why we don't want to interact with it, why people don't want to touch it. It is really quite dangerous stuff, let's be honest. So what do plumbers do? Plumbers bring fresh water into a building, which is life. Water is life. And they take the waste away, the dangerous stuff, the bad stuff that's going to cause diseases, and they take it away. But the crux of the matter here is that unless we get some form of enforcement, this is what they call a slow burn disaster. It is building slowly and slowly and slowly and slowly. Every day there's more and more non-compliant installations. Every day there is more and more components that are being installed that are going to fail or contaminate plumbing systems. Every day, millions of these things are taking place. Eventually, it's like a dam. When you get a small little leak in a dam, it increases in size, and eventually the dam wall just bursts, and there'll be a disaster. And that is exactly what we're looking at here. So my message really to you guys today is to take this information. Knowledge is power. Take this information. Talk to your clients, talk to your friends, your family, talk to people about this. people need to start understanding that that unless we collectively, as the people of South Africa, unless we change our ways and start complying with the laws of our country, that there is a disaster coming for us. And it's a disaster unlike anything we've seen before. When we don't have water and we don't have sanitation, people will die by the thousands. And we've got a responsibility to take the message forward and get government and the public to start to take some action on this and to start to spread the word and the knowledge so that eventually, hopefully, we can get some sort of change. Because at the end of the day, when this happens, it will affect you as much as it affects me and your children and your grandchildren and your friends and your family. So, yeah, guys, a little bit of depressing news, unfortunately. And I don't mean to bring you down on a Monday, but really the message is clear from all this research that we've done, that something's got to change. We can't carry on like this. It really is much worse than we believed it to be, and we've got to change our ways. And as simple as that. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for the time. Sorry, I always have to rush through these things a little bit. Anyway, there we go. I see there's a comment there from Brian, is that we need to get this to carte blanche, and you're quite right, Brian. The research has, what we've done is we've got a company that has a lot of media contacts that we are busy having engagements with to try and get this information through to people like carte blanche, the newspapers, wherever we can get it through. We've sent this research to the Department of Water and Sanitation, like we've done previous ones, to the Water Research Commission, to the Department of Labour, to SABS, to various government departments and important people in government. Whether or not they read them, I don't know. So I agree with you, Brian. I think we've got to try and get this type of information through to the big guns in the media. Any other questions or comments, Byron?
There aren't any questions currently. Is there anything you would like to add on, Steve?
I think, Brendan, thank you very much for bringing that through this morning. And, again, it just shows the serious impact of non-compliance and what can happen and what is currently happening now in the industry that we see on a daily basis. So, let's just be aware, take note of it, and be part of the solution, not the problem. Thank you.